Hey guys, Alex from LMU Academy here with another Le Mans Ultimate Fix Setup Lap Guide, this time in the BMW M Hybrid at Sebring. As always, we'll cover the setup first, then cover each corner in slow time, followed by the pit entry, and then finally put the lap together for you in real time. So first, let's take a look at the setup, and remember that we're using the default setup for the car with some slight changes to the electronics and brakes, which means you can still use this setup and achieve this lap time in any race that forces the fixed setup to be used. Now we set a lap time of a 146.6 using quali fuel with the medium tyre compound. Taking a look at the traction settings, we're using an overall TC value of 7, TC cut 6, and TC slip 10. Onto the brakes, and we're using a brake bias of 54.6 on the front and 45.4 on the rear. We're using a brake migration of 2.0 to the front as well as a max pedal force of 100%. Then finally onto the anti-roll bars, and we've got the front set to P1 and the rear set to P2. Now that's covered, let's take a look at each corner in slow time. So for turn 1, we position our car as far to the right as possible to the point where we're almost touching the wall. Now it's really hard to find a usable braking point here, but I found that braking as we reach the top of the service vehicle on the right here to be consistent. We go hard on the brakes about 80% down to 5th gear, and we need to trail off the brakes quickly so that we don't lose too much speed. Now the turn-in point is really important here, and we try to get the painted yellow line to line up with the middle of the car. Then we stick to that yellow line until we reach the apex, and our throttle point is just as we reach this black board on the fence above us. As we reach the board, we need to get back on the throttle and then use all of the exit curb on the right here. Now the next braking zone is really easy to lock up the tyres in, so we need to prepare for it by moving our car over to the middle of the track and then turning over to the right slightly so that as we reach the first white line, which is our next braking point, our steering wheel is as straight as possible. We go on the brakes about 80 to 90% down to 2nd gear, and we place the left side tyres just next to the blue and white curb, but we don't touch it because it can unsettle the car. Then as we reach the end of the curb, we go back on the throttle and turn the wheel to the right as soon as possible to prepare for the next corner. Same rule applies here, place the right side tyres just next to the blue and white curb but don't touch it, then keep the wheel turned to the right and stick to the right side of the track. Going over this curb slightly is possible and can gain you time, but there's a lot of room for error here and taking too much curb can cause you to unsettle the car. The next braking point is as we reach the end of this blue and white curb on the right, and we only use about 30% brake down to 2nd gear and then quickly flick the wheel over to the left, and we allow the car to coast until we get to the apex. Again, get as close to the curb as possible but don't touch it. As we reach the apex, we go back on the throttle smoothly and straighten the wheel as soon as possible. Then as we exit the corner, we can use the blue and white curb on the right, but try not to place more than half the car over the curb because it can cause you to bottom out and ruin your exit speed. Our next braking point is just as we reach the 400 board on the left. Now this braking zone is very bumpy, which can cause lockups easily, so we need to trail off the brakes early and use our fast engine braking to get the car slowed down in time. As we reach the apex, we can use all of the blue and white curb, but don't touch the yellow sausage curb here because that can unsettle the car. We go back on the throttle smoothly and straighten the wheel as soon as possible, and as we exit the corner, we try to line the blue and white curb up with the middle of our steering wheel, then stick to the right side of the track and follow the curve of the road. As we reach this dark patch of road, there's a nasty bump that will cause the car's revs to hit the limiter, so upshift early to 5th gear just before you reach it. Then the same rule applies here as we reach this second dark patch of road, upshift early to 6th gear to avoid hitting the rev limiter. Now our next braking point is this white line just after the 400 board on the left, and again it's very easy to lock up here due to the bumps. So we trail off the brakes early and use fast downshifting down to 1st gear to get the car slowed down in time. Again, as we turn in, we place the right side tyres just next to the blue and white curb. We go back on the throttle smoothly as we reach the end of the curb, then we get the car over to the left as soon as possible and follow the curve of the road. Now our next braking point is as we reach the end of the blue and white curb on the right, and we want to aim our car towards the curb on the left side of the track. We go on the brakes about 80% and trail off early down to second gear. Then as we reach the curb on the left, we need to turn in so that our right side tyres are just next to the blue and white curb but not touching it. Then as we reach the apex, we go back on the throttle smoothly and straighten out the wheel as soon as possible. Our next braking point is just as the blue and white curb on the left ends. We go hard on the brakes down to third gear, and as we turn in, we place ourselves so that the curb is in line with the middle of the car. Then as we reach the apex, we go back on the throttle smoothly and start turning over to the left as soon as possible. We place our left side tyres over the curb on the left, and our braking point is just at the end of the curb or the yellow line. We go on the brakes about 60% down to second gear and trail off early, then turn in so that the curb is in line with the middle of the car. Once we clear the apex, we go back on the throttle smoothly and keep the wheel turned to the right, then straighten the wheel as you reach the end of the curb. As we exit the corner, we can use the blue and white curb on the left, but again try to stay on the right side of the curb. Going past that can unsettle the car. Now for the final corner, and our braking point is as we reach the 200 board on the left or the white line next to it, and we need to turn the car into the right slightly just before we hit the brakes. We go hard on the brakes initially down to 4th gear, then we place ourselves so that the painted white line is in line with the middle of the car. Then as the line straightens out, we downshift to 3rd gear and then let the car coast into the apex. As we reach the apex, we keep the right side tyres to the left of the yellow line because there's a harsh bump directly on that line which can cause the car to bottom out if it makes contact with anything other than our tyres. As we reach the apex, we go back on the throttle smoothly and straighten the wheel. Then as we reach the end of the grass patch on the right, there's another bump which can cause the car to hit the rev limiter. So upshift to 4th gear early before you reach it to avoid this happening. Finally, as we exit the corner, we open up our exit by allowing the car to drift out wide over to the wall on the left, and that completes the lap. Now let's take a look at the pit entry, and our first braking point is just as this patch of grass on the right ends or as the dark section of road begins. We go hard on the brakes, but it's really easy to lock up here, so we need to trail off the brakes quickly down to 1st gear. We then hug the wall to the right, and as we reach the apex, we go back on the throttle up to 2nd gear and then aim the car towards the painted white line next to the black board. Our next braking point is just as we reach that black board, and we lightly apply the brakes about 30%. Now this is a really dangerous part to lock up in, so we need to let the car drift out wide to allow for more space to brake. Then we aim the car for the orange cone next to the wall on the right. Now locking up past this point will likely result in the car sliding over the pit line, which will incur a speeding penalty. So it's better to be safe and get the car slowed down earlier and activating the pit limiter well before reaching the white line. So that was a lap at Sebring in the BMW M HYBRID, and now we'll put it all together and leave you with the entire lap in real time. Now if you've got any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and if you want to see more lap guides like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel or visit lmuacademy.com.